I wanted to have a conversation with New Zealand's undisputed heavyweight champion of satire, Adnan Belushi. He joins me now. Good evening, young Adnan. How the devil are you?
Welcome to SimonTV's custom set. Look at this.
I love it, Adnan. What's going on there?
Mate, I just, having fun today. I had a friend over and she helped me make pasta sauce. So we're just cooling it down in the background there. And I've just got like some of my favorite things. Jimi Hendrix Experience. I've got Ian M. Banks' Surface Detail, one of my favorite sci-fi, the Culture series ever written. Just some plants, some coffee from Matakana, just chill. Sunday evening vibes.
Right, fantastic. Well, I tell you what, it's so busy. I don't think I've ever had a guest on who's had so many objects actually in front of them before the broadcast.
The thing, like, I love it, man. I'm all into this, like, psychedelics and DMTs and visions and jungles, and this is my thing, man. I'm kind of like, I do a lot of my satire that I do is very conservative sort of angle, or from the right angle. In many ways I am, but in many ways I'm also very hippie, and just like to chill and listen to hippie music, and it's good fun.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that you're a fan of Ian M. Banks. Are you familiar with the works of his protege, Ken MacLeod?
No, I think I've heard his name, but not really.
Okay, so we're Ken MacLeod and Ian M. Banks were dear friends. They're both authors, and Ian M. Banks pretty much shepherded Ken MacLeod's career. And the great thing about Ken MacLeod is where Ian M. Banks is very utopian, he's a lot darker, a lot more dystopian. So what I say to everyone is, if you really like Ian M. Banks, but you want to try the other side of the coin, check out Ken MacLeod. But I'm also a fan of Ian M. Banks. Those Culture series of novels are really tremendous.
I'd love to go and try the other side of the coin. So thank you for the recommendation.
Okay, yeah, and he's worth following on X as well. The guy he was for most of his life a really hardcore far left Trotskyite. And he did a zoology degree at, I think, Edinburgh University, and then later in life started writing all of these really incredible books. All right, well, look, other than the satire, the reason that I think I know you best, and certainly the way that I got introduced to you, was from your podcasting. So you've been doing it for a long time. I think you're the first person I met who was really doing it professionally. So what's, for the audience, tell us a bit about your background, how you got into it, and all of that.
Oh, man, I started doing sort of, I was in the business scene, and I was sort of doing a lot of public speaking about business and growth and all these different things and ideas and the future and AI and all that stuff. I was sort of doing speeches and business concerts and things like that, and then I ended up doing a TED Talk in 2018. That was kind of like my first experience with cameras and being on the internet and things like that. And then I think it was sort of like Christmas 2021. The idea kind of came to me from really beautiful chats I've had with friends over dinners and hangs and walks that I felt, oh, maybe this should be recorded and published, right? So that idea was brewing in my mind from really nice chats that I was having in my circles. And then eventually, I was talking to people and they're like, oh, podcast. I was like, okay, well, I'll check out what a podcasting is. And I check it out and see what people are doing and what the vibe is, what I want to do, what my style is going to be. I knew that I love long form, so I wanted to do long form. I knew that I wanted to be on the camera, not just audio. Everybody was doing audio podcast. And then the idea was maybe I can give it a bit of a dark satire look and feel. So when you watch my episodes with Paul Moon or Cam Slater, you will feel that sort of tension in the room. We're talking about some, like serious stuff. So I've done almost 100 episodes now, and I have in that span of time launched two sub shows. One is MMA show; it's all about mixed martial arts and the UFC. And the second show is the nuclear show, which is all about nuclear energy. There is this new breed of pioneers coming through, building incredible nuclear technology, and so it's all about that. So no, that's the podcast. It's been fun, but this year we're obviously entering into the election year, and there is a lot of. So we've just started to um, talk about with some high profile candidates and guests to come on a general election series of 20 episodes from 7th of August to the 7th of November, right?
Okay, well, that's really interesting. Like for the audience, I've got on screen the archive on Spotify of your shows. This seems to be it's a mix of the nuclear show, the new thing that you're doing, the Adnan Belushi show, so on and so forth. You've got a whole bunch of episodes going back quite some time, and it seems to me that what's happened is you've really branched out, right? So you have your main show, and then you're digging down into specific areas that are quite niche. Is that what's going on?
Yeah. I think we're gonna have a main show where we have high-profile people come in. I've got Sean Plunkett coming, Brian Tamaki coming. We're gonna build up with. Maybe we'll get Winston Peters. There's a bit of chatter going on around organizing that. When do we have him and whatnot? So we want to do a high-profile show for the main show, which is the main podcast. And then we want to also have like regular sub shows with some people that I want to have a regular show with, right? If there is really good chemistry. So I want to have a show about comedy. So 4 comedians sitting together talking about comedy, and then I want to have a show mixed martial arts, and then I want to do artificial intelligence. Then I might want to do a limited series on New Zealand politics during the election, right? So I want to have fun with it. I want to do this for the next 20 years, and I want to have about 3,000 episodes recorded by the time I want to get done with it. It becomes a sort of like a Wikipedia of its own, right? Lots of knowledge sits in the chats that we have and how we have them. So I think that's sort of one thing I would love to do with the podcast. So it's been a fun ride so far, and it's making money. It's making money starting this year, so it's great.
Oh, it's good, and it's great, if you're doing something that you love and that it's remunerating you well, that's really fantastic, and congratulations to you. We'll dig into that a little bit more later. But one of the things that I really admire about you is that you do have your finger on the pulse. You follow the trends. You keep looking to evolve to make sure that you're at the forefront of what is going on in terms of satisfying consumer tastes and developing your product. And one of the things that you said to me within the week that I thought was really fascinating was that now there's the expectation amongst podcasters that they should be producing 8 to 12 hours a week. That was one aspect that I thought was interesting, because of course I only ever produced 2, this show on a Sunday night, and 8 to 12 just seems like an awful lot to complete. But the second thing that you said that I thought was really fascinating was that it is considered kind of like the baseline, and the monetization comes from the little clips of your show that you then circulate subsequently. Now I do that. Like people will see that I've got into the habit recently of just clipping out 1 to 2 minutes of something that I've said or a guest has said, and I publish one of those every day across all of the social media platforms. And it's, of course, because not everyone tunes into me, and some people just like those snippets. The other advantage is on some of those, like on some of the other platforms, for instance, Instagram and TikTok and so on, they're designed for bite-sized chunks. So I thought that really grabbed me. And I don't follow what is happening with that stuff. I don't read the marketing reports, the marketing strategies and all that sort of thing. And you do. So one of the reasons why I was really interested in having you on to have this conversation was about picking your brain about what's happening in the space, how people go about doing things like increasing their viewership, increasing their monetization, all that sort of stuff, because it seems to me you're a bit of an expert on all of that.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, and I don't certainly set goals and try to kind of climb mountains. What I love doing is, if I'm doing a podcast, then I become an observer on what everybody else is doing on their podcast, and I would describe myself as a very aggressive observer. I observe every single detail of the Lex Fridman podcast, how the cameras are set up, how he speaks, and the type of guest he has, and what is the arc of the story, and what's the hook, and how does the show begin, how does the show end, right? So I'm doing a lot of that sort of stuff, which gives me a lot of information. It gets me closer to the algorithm that is being dictated by every single user on the internet or on TikTok, wanting that sort of level, and to get very, very close to the algorithm and be in sync with the algorithm and be in symbiosis with the machines. You have to really try to understand the number of hours of video being uploaded on YouTube every minute. Is it increasing? And then you can break down and work out an average number of output you need to have on your show. So if you look at Joe Rogan, he's sort of starting to do 12 hours a week. 9
Well,
hours.
that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
that's an absolutely huge commitment. But I see that
Yeah.
there are some more people have joined us in the chat. I should say good evening to Prometheus Inbound. Shouldn't have had those shrooms. I seem to be getting 2 hits of Simon TV at once. Don't know what that means. Is there an issue with the broadcast? Do let me know. Particularly if you're on YouTube. And so in previous weeks, I have had an issue with audio on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube and it goes sort of robotic-y, please do let me know, because I will need to fix it. PLJ says comedy gold. Well, you know how it goes. Eric McRae is here and says good evening to Adnan, friend of the show. G'day, young Eric. Nice to see you. Okay, well, look, one of the problems that you have if you do that is that you do run the risk of becoming a little bit too derivative. Like you do want to ensure that you're bringing your own style to your show and kind of just doing what you like. Rather than chasing trends. And I think that, that's for some people that can be quite the sort of a fine line to tread. Of course, I'm completely on the opposite side of that conversation. And that what I do is I just do dumb shit that I think is funny, like, fun with fountain pens or ginger watch. And I'm not really too concerned if other people find it as funny as I do. And that's probably not the best way about going about, growing your channel and, increasing your monetization opportunities and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, I am entertaining myself,
Yeah, I mean, spot on, man. I think all of that stuff is so true. I think it has to be a series of different puzzle pieces that come together. As I said, output is important. If we are living in an age of disclosure and more information and more stories coming out, then there is just more stuff to talk about. Like, I can easily do 3 episodes a week, and I can actually do more than that. When I fly to Auckland and I'm there for a week, I film about 12 episodes in 5 days, because I sort of batch record and then I fly out, and then I do my weekly schedules and publishings, right? 2 a week, or 3 a week, right? So yeah, there's a lot of changes happening. I think the next exciting thing that I'm gonna see, or we would see, or I'd love to see, is some podcast is gonna end up on Netflix, right? Some podcast is gonna end up on Netflix, and it's gonna be the Netflix podcast, like flagship podcast. So I think it's growing, it's getting bigger and bigger, and there's a huge amount of viewership. Viewership comes from, if you aggressively do 12, 9 hours a week, then every episode will give you 50 clips. If I'm having 50, like 150 clips a week, I'm doing 20, 30 output on TikTok and YouTube, right? So I'm talking about every single issue that's going on in the world for in that week on my show. So everything that trends on every issue, I have a view on it based on my show, or my guest has a view on it, right? So that just pumps the numbers and it grows, and then that then converts into, you can have more, you know, private direct sponsorship revenue, which is what I have. And then the next phase is that hey, it's big enough to have it licensed on a platform, right? That they pay me as a licensing fee. It could be on RNZ, it could be on, you know, those type of platforms where public can access this information. And you know, also, you know, I'm just monetized on Libsyn. It's my partner where I host my show, and they're distributed for me. So thanks to Libsyn. Shout out. If you have a podcast, use Libsyn. They have a marketing advertising platform where the more downloads you get, the more revenue they pay you from those downloads of your podcast. So there's sort of so many different, you know, like you can have a Shopify store selling merch for your podcast. So you can have like 10, 15 different revenue streams, which you can easily manage, keep it simple, and, you know, work with the people you want to work with, and off you go, you know. So yeah, man, I think it's an exciting space. Um, it's a space where I think people are looking for being fresh, uh, very informed, keeping the chats authentic, and being curious, not taking sides, and being just genuinely curious about what's happening in the world, and trying to bring a fresh perspective on it. And my daily routine is wake up, have coffee, work out, read, write jokes, read, do stand-up comedy training, do the physicality work, learn about commentating. I want to do mixed martial arts commentating. So it's just that stuff, and you're just in that routine. You try to manage what you consume, in terms of your food, and in terms of your internet knowledge and what you're watching. And then it's about the passion you have for it, and it's about discipline over motivation, right? And you just keep at that rhythm, at that work rate, which I enjoy. Yeah,
Okay.
it's good fun.
It is good fun, and what's we're also seeing, you know, a whole bunch of other people in this part of the world, both producing content like podcasts and things like that, which is great, but also we're seeing a shift in consumer behavior, in that people are tuning into them, right? Like, you know, once upon a time it's like, oh God, I've got to drive from Auckland to New Plymouth. I can listen to, you know, I can listen to George FM for some music, but once I get over the Bombay Hills, then I'm going to have to try and find a station, and it's all very annoying. So what you're finding people doing is saying, oh, hell, I'm just going to listen to a podcast. And I think that's great, but I think it's also moved beyond that. I think that there are a bunch of people who use it for to get more in-depth coverage of issues that they're interested in than you're ever going to get from things like the mainstream media, from even long form interviews, right? Like, you know, in New Zealand, if you listen to someone like John Campbell conduct an interview with someone, you will come out of there knowing nothing more than you did going in, because he's a fucking moron. All right. Similarly with Jack Tame, you know, Jack Tame is there to coddle left-wing ideologues and to berate right-wing ideologues. And because of that, you watch his show on a Sunday, and again, you're completely uninformed. You're left frustrated because he isn't asking the questions that you want, or he's focusing upon gotcha type journalism. And podcasts are the antidote to that. You can pick your niche. You can pick the topics that you're interested in. You can pick the commentators that you're interested in, and you give the audience that kind of flexibility. And I'm really interested to see what people who are tuning into this think about what I've just said, whether or not you think that that is what you're seeing, and why you're here listening to Adnan Belushi and, you know, the fat guy without a body.
But here's the problem, right? There is a problem that is about to, it's coming as this massive tsunami sort of wave in this world of podcasting. And that is, most of the podcasts are becoming corporate podcasts. They are run by agencies. They have to follow brand policy. They are naturally censored because they are branded podcasts, not independent people podcasts, right? Even I find it in my world, when I'm negotiating a contract with a company, I have to fight really hard in them not having any control over canceling the contract because I said something on my show, right? So my contracts come with a warning: my podcast contains words. Okay. So the idea is that I will say stuff, but you will have no right in this relationship to terminate your contract on the basis of me saying certain things. I actually put that in my contracts.
Okay, so yeah, well, like having
Right.
that editorial independence is
Yeah.
something, but you still get pressure, right? Like, for example, I notice that if I say that climate change, anthropogenic climate change is a Marxist myth, which it is, my videos tend to get demoted on platforms like YouTube
Yes,
for that
yes,
reason,
yes,
right?
yes.
So,
I mean,
there's those sorts of pressures.
the day Americans bought the America's subsidy of TikTok, the first day, if you type the word Jeffrey Epstein in a text message to a friend on TikTok, it will disappear and it will say, "This message has violated our community policy."
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
honestly, like, go and try it. So it's funny, you're right. They all do it, but now they are like shamelessly open about it, right? They're out of the closet. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
fuck with the algorithm.
And,
Right?
and, and
Like,
so,
you
yeah.
fucking cunt.
And for the audience's benefit, what I'm talking about here is, these are the pressures on free speech, essentially, right? So as Adnan just said, right, for someone who is professionally podcasting, you have a circumstance where if you're entering into partnerships, if you have brand management, all of those sorts of things, there are a bunch of people there that want to ensure that they can sell advertising via you, and they want you to be circumspect about some particular topics. That's one of the types of pressures. The other type is things like the platforms, and YouTube is one of the worst. Obviously, TikTok, since it as Adnan mentioned, since it was bought by Larry Ellison, has similar sorts of rules, but YouTube is the same. YouTube used to do this. Remember, if you were a podcaster 3 years ago and you said that COVID-19 came from a lab in Wuhan, YouTube took your channel away, right? And for people
Yeah.
who are monetized, that's a big deal, and that's a big disincentive because they're taking your livelihood away. YouTube is for many of those people are how they make money, and this is how the powerful can control what are nominally independent content producers. All right, guys, look, I better say hello to some of the people in the chat who've just arrived since I last said hello. Crunkster is here. Good evening, young man. Real truth seekers don't need to chase monetization, Crunkster. I think that is quite right. There are a lot of people, that if you're firstly, if you do have the latitude to not be monetized, that is a great thing because you can convince your audience, look, I really believe this. No one's paying me to do that. But the other thing is, how can you prove that? It's a very difficult thing to prove. Oh, no, trust me. I'm not promoting this brand while I'm promoting this brand. You know what I mean? Shelley says, you are so precious to us, Simon. Thank you, Shelley. You guys are precious to me too. Weightbrush is here. Good evening. Who says, can we just get this conversation finished and move on to fun with fountain pens, please? That's funny, Weightbrush. That revisionist humor. Trevor Dowsett is here on Instagram. Hello. And some other people there whose names I can't see. Simon has some sad news about fun with fountain pens. I absolutely do. Okay. PLJ says, starting with which influencers? I don't know what you mean, PLJ. And Weightbrush says, only about 6 months to be late, to be fair. Crayon hour or pencil shorts. That's funny. The Anglo-Saxon is here. Good evening, young man, who says the BSA is still a worry. And that's a good point too, right? Like, in terms of those pressures, as we've spoken about, you've got the pressures coming from monetization and partner relationships that you have. You have pressures from the platforms trying to exert sensorial control over what podcasters say. And here in New Zealand, as the Anglo-Saxon rightly points out, same with the Broadcasting Standards Authority. They are trying to set themselves up to be like Julie Inman Grant in Australia, the e-Karens who control what we can say on the internet. And that is right. That has
these guys
to go.
are not fucking around. They want to control the internet. They wake up every day, 18 hours a day. That's all they work towards, you know. They want to control the internet.
And Embrace Empathy makes the point. Paul Goldsmith is a worry. He holds the portfolios and says nothing of the BSA or the lefty media. That is exactly right. Paul Goldsmith is one of the most disappointing ministers in the national government.
He's a slippery motherfucker, man. He's a slippery dude. I just like stay away from this guy. I do not want to cross paths with him.
All right, coming to Nuclearis. I've got their website up on screen. Nuclearis, this is one of your sponsors. So what can you tell me about these guys? Are these guys making like little reactors here in New Zealand, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so Nuclearis are a sponsor of the podcast, and the partnership came from a series of conversations we had about where nuclear is. The fact that nuclear is underrepresented in the discussions we have about everything in life. If the electricity bill goes up and spiking, people don't ask the question, well, you know, we're trying wind and solar and it only makes it worse. Why don't we try nuclear? And then people don't, because people are not given enough information about what's going in the world of nuclear innovation and invention. People trying to replicate the sun with nuclear fusion. There is nuclear fission. So the idea kind of naturally, organically came that we need to do a podcast with the co-founders of Nuclearis. And they decided to choose my podcast as their main PR channel to drive the industry and bring more attention to the industry, the new nuclear age. I'll talk about this later in the show once we're done with the podcast chat, is that now we're starting to write a documentary, a 90-minute documentary about the new age of nuclear. Right.
Oh, that's fascinating. But they are New Zealand based, these guys.
These guys are based in Argentina. In New Zealand, we have, and they're expanding in Austin, Texas. In New Zealand, we have OpenStar, that's based in Wellington. They've just been given by Shane Jones $35 million to research nuclear fusion energy. And so Dr. Ratu is coming on my show to talk about OpenStar and nuclear fusion in New Zealand, which I think is super fascinating. So here's are some new sort of things to know about nuclear energy. You know, like 1 barrel of nuclear energy can be equal to like hundreds of barrels of oil energy. That's how dense it is, and that's how powerful it is. So in the future, nuclear energy is gonna dictate geopolitics, not oil and gas, right? And without nuclear, AI is dead. If you love AI and you want to use AI, you need nuclear to power 10 billion humanoids wandering around the planet, you know, and 50 billion agents all over the internet. You need nuclear energy powering all of that sort of activity.
Well, you certainly need alternative, efficient fuel sources. But coming to AI in terms of the podcasting capability, do you think that there is a trend where people are getting a little bit over AI slop and are looking to see more sort of like a live action, more reality, more kind of, human interaction in the podcasting space than maybe they were 3 or 4 months ago? And by that, what I mean is, like, people were saying, well, hey, why have SimonTV where you can just have robot Simon imitate his voice, type out what the podcast script is going to be, and then boom, an AI delivers it. But I suspect that the market isn't there. I think that people actually prefer that human touch. Or maybe I'm just will stop me thinking.
I agree with you. That market is not there. People, I use AI, for example, when I publish my YouTube video on of my podcast, 3 hours. When I publish that, I put that link into a software, AI software called Opus .pro. Yeah, I put the link in there, and then I select some settings, like I want TikTok clips, 3 minutes long. I want this style subtitles, and I click on a button, and what it does, it speaks to all the social media algorithms and come up with a score of 99 to 65 based on which videos will do much better on the internet and which won't, which clips from your podcast. So then I just automate and schedule all the outputs, and AI does that for me. And that's sort of, and then I use AI in my post production. But I don't use AI to come up with my scripts, my questions, or replicate me, my face, and my voice, and just go and do podcasts with internet bots. No, I don't think that market is there. I at least haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, the sort of the temptation is there, right? So, one of the things, due to my, for a bunch of reasons, and my sort of ongoing cognitive decline, I often, when I'm podcasting and I'm speaking on a particular topic, I have a tendency to and or it takes me a moment to recall the word that I'm going to use. Okay, now you can smooth all of that out in post production, in the tool that I use, DaVinci Resolve. If I've got an I can cut that out, and I can just put a little AI manipulation over that cut, and it smooths it out, so you don't see that I actually did in that particular position. All right, and that seems to make sense, right? So
it does, but I do it in the old school way. I make sure that when I'm recording and when I'm live, I am not to say and ah. I should speak. So I do it, I train myself when I'm recording, so I don't have to bloody deal with the edits, right? So just do it properly, and then you're good to go.
But I could take it another step, right? Like, so DaVinci Resolve has the ability to imitate my voice, and it can do it very, very well, right? So the potential exists for me to, using those two tools, which are just already built into it, is what I could do is I could just script the podcast and get DaVinci Resolve to go and build it, and bickety bam, there you are. Now, of course, I would never do that, because with SimonTV, it's about the interaction with the audience and that sort of lifetime thing, which you're not going to be able to get, at least yet, from an AI. But of course, people would also know it, and I'm sure that the market is not there for that. And the audience seems to agree. Embrace Empathy says, I want real people, not robots. Yep, exactly right. And PLJ said, would pygmy AIs use less power? Yeah. Yeah. I'm not too sure. And you use some AI capabilities in your post-production, don't you? What do you use?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you reminded me that we're just looking at some software to do all my voice-led advertising using AI. I don't want to sit and record ads in the studio, right? And trying to do like 20, 30 takes. I just want to give it to the AI, and the AI can take my voice and do an audio ad for the stuff, all the ads that will go on my show with my voice on it, right? So we're just starting to do that. And the other thing in the post-production we do is clipping, multi-cam clipping, switching between one camera to the other. We use Autopod to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, the you see, like, one of the things that I can do in post production is what's the tool actually called? It's called it's called transcription, right? So what I could do after you and I have finished this conversation, I can take the whole clip from this into DaVinci Resolve and transcribe it, right? And I say to the transcription, okay, go through this. I can say to the AI, restructure this conversation to give it more of a structure, so that, Adnan and I, we bounced around a bit. We started talking about podcasting, and then we diverged into nuclear energy, and then we talked about fountain pens, and then we went back to podcasting. Make it so that there's a natural flow, right? And what this post-production editing tool will do is it will go through and reconstruct the transcript so that our conversation follows that pattern, and then it will edit the
Ah.
video to make our conversation that, and it will use that smooth cut feature to ensure that it's transparent when it has cut.
I do not like that. This is fucking weird. No, this is no. No, stop it. No, this is silly. Like, I spend so much time for every conversation that I am about to have on my show. I sit down and I like use pencil and pen, and I figure out what's the hook that when this chat starts, everybody feels like, there is a character, there's a hero, and there's a bad guy, and it takes about 20 minutes for that picture to form. And I spend so much time in that first 20 minutes because that's where most people drop off. They come in and the 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, they drop off. So I focus a lot of my energy in that first like 20 minutes. What am I going to talk about? What's my first question? What's my follow up? How do I keep that suspense? Where do I slow things down? Right. So I spend so much time doing that. And then we have an AI coming and like changing all that. No, I think there is, with podcasting there comes a sense of physicality, the way you move and the way you speak and your voice and the energy you put into things, and all the different characters you might do or voices you might do, or different type of chats you have, where somewhere with some friends you're smoking a cigar, having something relaxed, and then you have like someone like Paul Moon, which is all like very academic, very specific. And, I'm like this little golden retriever dog in front of a very intelligent man. And I'm like, tell me the truth, tell me the truth. So, yeah, it's,
Well, it's a threshold, isn't it? So
yeah.
all of these tools exist, and there's a fine line between what is an automation, what is using AI, what is being creative, what is being something which is synthetic, and so on. And all of these tools are available, and I think it's up to all of us, how we utilize them to kind of improve our own lives, but ensure that there's still a certain amount of authenticity. And I think that you and I kind of agree, like, people that are going over the top on this AI type stuff, are not really, they're not really adding anything to the world. But it is fair to say also that some of those people are making huge amounts of money, right? Like they just produce AI slop. But there are a lot of people out there, like on TikTok, like on Instagram, who will watch what is to most people obvious slop of a cat kissing a dog or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's
my goal with my podcast is, don't be progressive with it. Be as traditional as you can be. You want to feel radio, you want to feel pirate radio vibes, you want to feel nightclub vibes, you want to have curtains, you want to have, I think that's very, very important. It's like, keep it as old school as possible and don't be very progressive and new. If you can do that, then you can I think be more closer to being authentic. And I think there's value in those shows, and those shows are more durable, I think.
yeah, yeah. Or you could go the other way and be like, for an aesthetic, adopt the worst episode of Red Dwarf anyone ever saw. All right, you've got this. You're using some AI on this thing, Funny Machines. What can you tell me about that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Funny Machines is my AI startup. I started it last year, and we were experimenting with writing satire comedy for the Chimp Chronicles, which is my satire website. I used to write all my satire on my personal account on X, and now it's got its own brand. It's called the Chimp Chronicles, chimpchronicles.com. We're having some maintenance today, but it will be up in a couple of days. We're just doing a refresh and adding some new features to the website. And yeah, I mean, Funny Machines, we were figuring out creating small learning models powered by large language learning models like OpenAI and Grok and XAI. And then we were trying to tune it to write satire articles, create satire headlines, or collaborate with us as writers in, with human machine collaboration instead of like us writing everything ourselves. So we experimented with that, and we kind of created this rough model, and we thought, oh, why can't this small language model can be a large language model, a larger language model, and then it can do much more things. If we can build comedic intelligence in a artificial intelligence, general intelligence, and we can put that into robots, then they can get very close to being human like. They can understand nuance, they can understand local culture, language, history, how locals work, and adapt to that using the comedic intelligence, because it's humor based intelligence, right? So robots in Auckland, New Zealand would be very different to robots that are in Japan,
Got it.
right? And then you also are losing a lot of languages within the English language as AI becomes generalized and Americanized. So when I talk to AI, they don't talk to me like a Kiwi would talk to me. They'll talk to me like Americans would talk to me. So we're losing the Kiwi English, the British English, the Canadian English, and it's all becoming generalized. So with funny machines, is like, can we keep AI with identities within the identities we have? Like New Zealand is an identity. We are a nation. We're New Zealanders. So we want the humanoids that live and work in New Zealand not be Americanized, but be more sort of Kiwi. So that's Funny Machines. It's some crazy stuff. I think it's one of those projects that I wanted to do something very crazy, and a software that can, be eventually in millions and billions of AI. So yeah, we're having a lot of fun with it. We're talking to investors for a pre-seed round and some research funds as well from universities to study this type of intelligence, because it will also be a very good business tool. And these AI chatbots like Oscar on Air New Zealand, which I use all the time, can be a bit more smarter and make human-like decisions, and understand urgency and context and emotional intelligence, and be a more human-like AI. So that's Funny Machines. That's what we're doing with that.
Okay. Turning to the chat, someone offering to promote me. No, thank you. Debbie Lacey is here. Good evening. Hello, my lovelies. Hello. Nice to see you. I'm glad that you are here, guys. If anyone is watching on YouTube, please let me know if you have any audio issues, and please, everyone, do like and share the broadcast so that everyone knows that we are here doing this. PLJ says, "Be authentic. Be duck-lipped. Bling bimbos pumping spiritually authentic vegan virtue signaling recipes." That's funny. Waitbro says, "I don't know about this guy. I've heard some of his podcasts and enjoyed them, but he's all AI, LLM, and at the same MMA comedy. Even his podcast logos apes Rogan's." Well, that's a fairly harsh criticism. Debbie Lacey says, "Two of the kids in my neighborhood is having problems and they come to me to talk. They are good kids, just need to offload. I think they like my biscuits." Well, it could be that, Debbie, but if you need them straightened out, it's probably a good idea to send them to go and watch Simon TV. Okay, and one of the things I wanted to run past you is PodLab. Dom Harvey and JJ Fenney have this business with PodLab, and I've gone in there and seen it, and it's a fantastic operation where what they do is they've got all of the kit, all of that sort of stuff. They have the studio space, the lighting, the editing gear, the audio equipment, everything, so that a podcast host can simply just walk in with his guests, have a cup of coffee, sit down, start working, and just have a conversation, and then step away from it all, and all of the production is done, all the pre-production, and all of the post-production. The next day, Dom and JJ present the podcaster. Here is the edit of your show. Away you go. And what I really like about that is that it's effectively commoditizing the space. People don't need to know about lighting and audio and video editing and all that sort of stuff. All they need to do is to give Dom and JJ, like, I don't know, I think they charge like $500 an hour or something like that. Go in, give them $500. Next day, you've got your podcast delivered for you. I think that's That's a really fantastic approach to it. In terms of a business opportunity, but I really like that they are providing this as a service for people who want to get into the podcasting space to use. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I've seen these studios. They're all around the world. It's great if you are traveling and you bump into someone and you're like, man, do you want to do a podcast? I've got an extra day, and then you can go use a studio and do the podcast. I think one of the areas where it's getting a little bit of decline of a use is podcasts have become video based. And these environments can provide you the same setup that everybody else might use. So you want something different. So what's happening now is that people just hire Airbnbs and do their full day recording or a full week recording, and then that's their studio. So they don't have to invest into anything serious until it becomes a bigger show and it has more of revenue, right? So I think, yeah, I think they're great because they allow a lot of people who don't like all these custom setup to have a setup, and they just record it and they put the content out, because the content being out is more important than the studio, the setup, and this and that, right? So we all prioritize different things, right? Like, I want to have a proper studio built somewhere, fly guests in, have a full day with them, and they are fully present. That makes the chat better, and it's face to face, and it's the reactions are much more faster face to face than dealing the lags of virtual chats. But for me personally, I would say try and have your own unique setup instead of trying to use something just because there is a but if you're new and you just want to get going, because it's really important that you do at least 100 episodes before you really start to get to that point where you can spend 10,000, 20,000 on equipment and a lease and set up and, all that stuff.
Yeah, well, I like, I've been really enjoying Cam Slater's podcast, the Good Oil podcast. Everyone knows Cam Slater. He's been, he was a pioneer in the New Zealand blog space and political blogging and new media in this country. And he started off podcasting, and, he had a production team with him. He was using Leo Malloy's headquarters to host some of the stuff that he was doing and that kind of thing. And I think they ran into they might have run into a few production headaches there. I'm not actually too sure, but I see that he's moved into just renting a podcasting space. And I think it is fair to say that, he experienced an immediate quality jump. And I had a conversation to him. I said, look, this stuff's looking really good. It's sounding really good, all that sort of thing. And his argument for it was, he said, look, I just rather pay the money. I'm there to have conversations with people. I'm a presenter. I don't want to know anything about the production stuff. That is distracting me from my core task, which is that conversation. And I thought, that's a really reasonable argument. You don't need to do it all yourself. If you want to focus on being on having that capability and being that guy, you can, and operations like that kind of facilitate it.
Exactly. Look, at some point I'm going to have a producer full time for my show. That's my plan. But like Cam Slater, he last year he came on my podcast and he did 3 hours and 30 minutes, and we had one of the best time ever. And then he left going, you know what? You've inspired me to start my own podcast. And he went on, did that, and he kept, I helped him in the very early phases. And once he got going, once he did the first episode, I was like, you're good to go, man. You do your thing. If you need me, you know where to find me. And now he's done 20 episodes, it's really cool. And yes, you're right. I've seen that jump when he moved from, I can tell when the production is like a Cam Slater production, because it's a little bit chaotic, it's a little bit all over the show. And then when his episodes came out where he did not produce them, he just was like hosting the show. The production felt more calm and relaxed, and the switches between camera, the audio was really nice, the video. I'm like, man, this is so much better than Cam doing it, so sometimes that works. If that works, do that.
Yeah, and I think that probably it's a good idea for people who are looking to form their own podcast and just get a feel for what's actually involved. It's a whole lot whole lot easier. All right, turning to the chat, PLJ says spray painting walls with Simon show. Audio is very good on YouTube, says Sue. Okay, thank you very much, my dear. That is good to know. Embrace Empathy says, funny you bring up Dom's podcast. His interview with the forensic pathologist was mind-blowing. It's the most recent and well worth a watch. I bought his book. Oh, you bought Dom Harvey's book? Well, I've known Dom for a long time, and he wrote a book, and I wonder if it's the same book. Called The Confessions of an Idiot or something like that. He gave it to my dad for a Christmas present one year, like about 10 years ago. I was just like, what the hell, Dom? Like, your book is not the sort of reading for my dad. I'm not sure I've fully forgiven Dom Harvey for that Christmas present. Finney is also notoriously falsely accused a taxi driver and never tastes. Oh, I don't know. I've known JJ for a long time as well, and I know her to be an honest person. If she says something happened, I would believe it to be true. Debbie says, PLJ, I put out little seeds of them to think about and research. That's good. Good for you. PLJ says, Socratic method of induced learning are very effective. Yeah, I was subjected to that. Socratic adduction is what that method is called. They did that to us at law school. Socratic adduction is a very good method of instruction, but it's also really, really challenging because when they hit you up and you don't know what you're talking about, it's really, really obvious. My God, I sweated through lots of law classes teaching us with Socratic adduction. All right, what do you reckon is going to be the next thing in podcasting in general, but also for the Adnan Belushi experience?
I don't know. Well, let's see what happens. I think Joe Rogan has his deal coming in renewal with Spotify. It looks like he might continue with them. So there may not be changes, whether, he might move to Netflix. That would be a big thing. If Joe Rogan's on Netflix, I think that would be pretty cool. Or maybe Joe Rogan goes on Paramount. Paramount just did a $8 billion deal with UFC to have, and Paramount is run by Larry Ellison's son, who's bought, the same company that's bought TikTok in America has bought Paramount Plus, and they're putting billions of dollars in for content. They've $8 billion for UFC, and they want to buy Warner Brothers and all the movies, and they're fighting with Netflix for that. So I think they want more stuff, and I think they will be going after Joe Rogan 100%. I think that's probably going to be big. The Adnan Belushi Conversation is my podcast, Mighty ABC, and like I said, I'm just getting close to 100. I'm not too focused on doing anything big, major. I just want to get my chats better, bring more guests in, go on more tours. Maybe think about having an Auckland studio where I can record, stuff in Auckland. That I want to set up my own space. I just wanted to, I love hospitality. I love hosting people. So when people come, I'd love to have a space where we hang out, have a drink, get to know each other, or go for dinner before we record, or I love doing that stuff. So I just want to have my own space. So Nuclear Show is growing. The podcast, I just want to do this year 100 episodes. There's some really good revenue growths coming, so I can reinvest and just keep doing it and bring more guests in and have more chats. There's about 50 odd being booked right now for the next sort of 5 months or so. So there's plenty going on in that space. Just
right,
busy
wow,
every day.
You're certainly very, very, very busy with it. That's so you're getting up to that sort of 8 to 12 hours of baseline content every week.
Yeah, I'm at 6 hours now. So I'm looking at getting to 9.
Getting to 9, yeah. Well, and I mean, it does take some doing, right? Because, for every hour that you're sitting in, that you're in front of the camera, there's probably 4 or 5 hours where you're doing prep work or you're doing post work, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'd say it's a full-time gig. You spend like a decent amount of time on it. Not 40 hours, but it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of intense, lots of energy, lots of chatting, lots of camera time. And then behind scenes, you're doing a lot of work around keeping those relationships so that they come back on your show and they become regular guests, and you build a community and an ecosystem and make sure that they are successful as well, not just focusing on yourself. So you go on their shows and you talk, how invest into what they're doing, or try to get them into a new season of some sort, or a new special project to promote this, or do a cameo in a movie or TV show, whatever. So that's kind of my approach, is making sure that I have fun with it. There are times I get too serious about it and I just pull myself back and try to be fun, but also not be too casual, and keep it like a fun hobby that I do whenever I want to do.
Well, yeah, that's great. I think that's a good approach. But as I said at the top of the show, I really appreciate how you've evolved over time. And followed your interests into other areas. A good example is that you're actually going to start doing live comedy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been writing comedy for 2 years now for satire. I've written over like 3,000 stories. And so I have a really good feel about my style of comedy, and which is observational comedy. And also, I've written so much, so I know what I like and what I want to joke about, right? And so, yeah, I've adapted that for stand-up comedy. I'll start doing sort of a residency somewhere in Auckland. I'm having a chat with a comedy club, and then we'll use that residency to build up, hopefully do like a 1 hour comedy special that can go on YouTube. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. That's gonna be super super fun, just to, yeah, go around the circuits and do comedy.
And do some stand up.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
all right.
yeah,
Well,
it's gonna be
yeah,
fun.
I'm really looking forward to
Yeah,
coming along to your
I've
show and
just
making it.
written, it's I've just written my whole Hitler piece, my Hitler bit, which is gonna be fun. Yeah, 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 yeah. The whole thing. I'm looking into like maybe getting the whole costume and like do proper performance.
All right. Well, look, I'm looking forward to coming along to your show and heckling you as much as I
Yeah,
as I
yeah, yeah.
possibly can. So when you
Yes,
are going to
please.
be in Auckland, certainly let me know. So have you booked dates when you're going to be
We're
in?
gonna, yeah, announce the date soon. Working on
Okay.
it. Yeah, yeah. But for now, I'm kind of doing new material nights with friends and some people. So in open mic areas that are not recorded and they're sort of small, so it can be more private. So just sort of practicing lots of new material. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that's wonderful. And what sort of which comedians do you take inspiration from?
Oh man, I don't. I just can't do it because it's everybody has their own style, and they do different things. I'm just trying to focus on myself and see how my style is going to develop over time, and how I want to approach it, and what I want to do and what I don't want to do, and how physical do you want to be on the show, on the set, on the stage. But yeah, I mean, I watch all of them. I love Kill Tony. It's a good podcast for comedy, and there's always new people coming through. There's lots of great people there. But the usual, right? Ricky Gervais is always doing new one. His latest was good. Joe Rogan's quite fun on stage, very physical. Yeah, so yeah, Eddie Murphy was amazing when he was on stage. Billy T. James was amazing when he was on stage. One of the iconic Kiwi, comedians. Um, yeah.
All right, turning to the chat. Eric McRae says, great conversation, guys. I'm heading off soon. Okay, Eric, cheerio. Need to jump back on Adnan's podcast sometime soon. And speaking of his podcast, PLJ says Auckland Zoo might host Chimp Chronicles, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Let's make that happen.
And PLJ says, Adnan, your content is fairly chaotic to encounter. Your head must be a busy place. How do you unwind?
Oh man, unwind. I love smoking cigars. Yeah, so cigar, glass of rum, I unwind. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's probably how I do it.
Wine and cigars. All right. Well, that's
Yeah, yeah.
that's a really reasonable approach. All right. Well, just on that comedy thing, when are you intending to tour? Like, did you say July is when you're going to be touring the country?
Yeah, no, I don't want to tour the country. I just want to do Auckland and have a residency in one place and just do like 2 nights a week type thing.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
want to tour the country. I want to do that, and then I want to record my set maybe there or somewhere bigger, and then put it on the internet. That's the plan.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's certainly something to be looking forward to. But geez, as PLJ says, you're a busy chap, right? You know, you've got this AI startup, you've got the parody stuff with Chimp Chronicles, you've got the Adnan Belushi conversation podcast, and now doing stand up. You know, it's sounding like it's just a full time living and breathing this stuff.
It is. And, there is a new documentary now I'm starting to do, which is a new nuclear age, flying around filming. So that's going to be a 7-month project. And then I've just written a satire, animation, sitcom comedy that has been presented to studios to fund and film. It's about 4 guys that live in Austin, Texas. One's a podcaster, one's a comedian, one's a chef, and the other one is a robot. And Austin lives in the future where it's colonized by aliens, and they hang out in all these different places. In the restaurant where they do like barbecue, chef cooking, and chats and eating over that kind of food. They then hang out on their podcast. The podcast is called One Bit After Another as well. The name of the show, where they just riff on about one thing after another. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun TV show. So I don't know, man. This is the pace I like to work at. This is the work rate I enjoy, and then I spend my time with my kids. I have them every other week, and so a week I go hard, a week I chill with my kids and be more present and be with them. It works for me. I love this pace, and this is the pace I'm enjoying. So yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, good for you. All right. Well, look. Before I let you go, where is the best place for people to learn more about you and to consume your content?
Yeah. Linktree. There's a Linktree / my full name, Adnan Belushi. You can find all of my links on Linktree. And X, I'm on there. If you want to know more about the podcast, it's Mighty ABC. That's the social on TikTok. There's lots of clips on it on YouTube as well at Mighty ABC. Chimp Chronicles is there. There's an extension of Chimp Chronicles where real news that should be satire are printed. So it's called notthechimp.com. Yeah, funnymachines.com. So there's a few links that you can go and check out as well.
Okay, well, I'll put up a link to your link tree in the chat so that people can find you. All right. Well, look, I'm going to give you the final word. What is the one thing you would like the audience to go away having listened to our conversation this evening?
Have some chocolate and have some wine, and I hope it was fun or it was useful. Just do whatever you want to do. Enjoy your life. Don't be like anybody else, and have a good evening.
All right, fantastic. Yeah. Well, it's been great to have you on, Adnan, and a real pleasure. And I absolutely love your set. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Adnan Belushi of the Mighty ABC. I'll put up a link to his link tree in the chat so that you can go and consume some of his content. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play you a little bit of cinema, play you a little bit of music while I say cheerio to Adnan off air, and then come back and run through some articles for the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, I swear this is true, you are watching Simon TV. Thanks for watching. To consume more of my content or comment upon this clip, tune in to Simon TV Live on Sundays.